Hello and welcome to the Talking NorCal Podcast, the official podcast of Active NorCal. I am your host, Zach O'Brien. With me here, as always, it's Bogey Bobby. How you doing, Bob?
Man, I can't play golf at all. So bad at golf.
We've been playing golf in quarantine, and Bob gets a lot of bogeys. So.
I haven't broke 125.
You're getting there, though. You're close. You're getting there. So if you haven't noticed, we are officially back after a hiatus of doing this podcast. Today we are on episode 27, and we have a fun one for you. We will be doing these weekly moving forward, so we are officially back. As always, please subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch this full podcast on our YouTube page, Talking NorCal, as well as clips on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Active NorCal and Talking NorCal. Follow us everywhere. We're back in the game. We're gonna continue to bring some great content to your eardrums, to your eyeballs. Before we begin, Active NorCal, we actually have some great new products for our audience. We have swag,
merch, baby.
Both literally and figuratively. That's right. We have T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, stickers to get you looking stylish on your next Northern California adventure. You can get 10% off your first order in our store by using the promo code NorCal. Not hard to remember. Promo code NorCal at checkout. Go to store.activenorcal.com. Use the code to get 10% off. We've got some great merchandise, including the sweatshirt I'm wearing right here. We have a new drop coming in the next week or so with some of our best stuff. So go check it out, store.activenorcal.com, promo code NorCal. We also have this awesome water bottle we're now selling. The Nero Flask water bottle, it uses its patented filter to remove 99.9% of known toxins in water to make sure you never run out of hydration in the great outdoors. This is a great product. I actually use it all the time. We are currently, to our audience, we're offering it at $10 off. $10 off. That's like 30% off. $10 off its current price with the promo code, you guessed it, NorCal. You can get this great water bottle with a built-in filter for just $19.95. Go to activenorcal.com/NeroFlask, or you can find it in the store, store.activenorcal.com. We have it everywhere. Seriously, this is a great product. We're really stoked that we're moving these things now. So go buy it today. Okay, let's hop into this episode with the Tahoes. Hella NorCal.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and there are no salad dudes who kick it down in Santa Cruz. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the East Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal.
And we're back. I've always wanted to say that. That's a great Jimmy Fallon skit on Saturday Night Live. And we're back.
We're back.
So we wanted to, since we went on a hiatus and we're coming back, we wanted to spend a day to sort of just go through what's been happening. You know, a lot has obviously happened. Luckily, this COVID situation seems to be, we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. I know a lot of people who have gotten the vaccinations, and now we feel comfortable visiting them. So we're really lining up to have a good, at least second half of 2021. So we're really excited. I guess I should open with sort of the big news we had this month, and that's National Geographic. We were featured in National Geographic.
You were featured in National Geographic specifically.
Yes. So Miles Howard, who wrote this fantastic article about sort of the waterfall loop in Shasta Cascade right outside Redding, reached out and did an interview with me, and he actually quoted me in the first paragraph.
I saw that.
Which was kind of astounding. You know, I didn't think what I said was all that, revelatory, but nonetheless, it was really cool. Unfortunately, they actually pulled the article from print at the last minute, so it's just digital. But it was a really cool article. He goes into what he did: Bernie Falls, McCloud Falls, Hedge Creek Falls. Sort of talked about all the stories behind them, their geological, features, and what makes them so unique and special. And he said, Redding is a reliable home base for exploring waterfalls in Northern California. Can't argue with him there.
No, not at all.
And he actually went really deep into some history, some Lassen Volcanic National Park stuff. And I just thought it was a really cool article. What did you think?
That was some of my favorite part of the article, is where he gets into the kind of volcanic activity and the lava tubes that really are kind of responsible for a lot of the waterfalls in Northern California. But I will say, so I read it twice. I read it once right when it came out, but then I read it again today. And when I read it again today, I had a different perspective in that I was like, this guy just found, what he did is he went to the Active NorCal YouTube page, went to all the waterfalls we visited, and was like, wow, there's a lot of waterfalls in a small area. I should probably write about this. Googled it, found probably several articles written on activenorcal.com, and was like, I should probably quote this guy because he's kind of the expert. I mean, we've been to every waterfall in Northern California, videoed it, written about it, etc.
Well, and we had been visiting these since our childhood.
1,000%. But if you go Google or YouTube any of these, it's Active NorCal that comes up. So my opinion when I read it today was this guy was kind of like, you know what? I mean, all of this information, pretty much all of this information I'm giving exists on Active NorCal. So let's bring in the expert, the guy that kind of has been promoting these destinations for years.
Yeah, he actually he did a site visit, and he actually went to all these waterfalls. So good for him. He's a fantastic writer. I actually bought his book about millennial voters, which I'm looking forward to reading. But yeah, you're right. It's funny because I do interviews all the time, like for different stories, and so I kind of know how to make an impact on someone that's interviewing you. So I just came with a bazillion different stories. I'm sort of this somewhat useless vault of random trivia, Northern California trivia.
That's me with food and wine, generally.
Yeah. And so I had all these different things that I was going to hit him with. And, I like the McLeod Falls stuff. I hit him with the Wintun Castle, the Hearst Castle. He knew about that. I hit him with, sort of the history of Bernie Falls and how it changed hands and, the Native American stuff. He knew all that. And I was like, man, he already knows everything. And then we got to Hedge Creek Falls, and I was like, well, I actually got a cool story. Black Bart, the legend is Black Bart used to go there after he'd rob a Wells Fargo stagecoach, and he'd stay the night in the cave under Hedge Creek Falls. He's like, oh yeah, that's going to make the article. I was like, all right, I got him. Finally, I got him. But no, kudos to Miles Howard. He great writer, great sort of deep dive on the big waterfalls, the big attractions.
It's just really a nod to Northern California in general, too. This not just national magazine, but this is an internationally distributed magazine, right? So this is, it says national. You saying you can't buy a National Geographic outside of the United States? I find that hard to believe.
No. It's I randomly have this fact right here. It's a massive media conglomerate that goes to 172 different countries and 43 different languages. I mean, their following digitally is massive, hundreds of millions of people. So
I wonder what the click rate is in the activenorcal.com in that first paragraph.
I don't think it's much.
Pretty sweet.
No, it's based on just the statistics I've been looking at, not a whole lot. But I'm sure some here and there, and just
should have put your Twitter handle.
Yeah. You
gotta start doing that more. You need to embrace your Twitter.
He put like 3 different links for us in there, so I can't.
That's true.
He really did throw it down. The promotion. I think for us, it's just sort of proving we are the go-to for this type of stuff. And,
clearly,
it was a nice to be able to be recognized and to be asked to participate in something like this. Bummed it wasn't in print. I actually, as total boomer move, I printed out the article to have it, which it doesn't.
Are you my mom?
I know. Well, I wanted to. I actually wanted to
color or black and white.
Black. I'm not wasting my color cartridges on that. But no, it was nice to sort of sit down with it and go through it and print. Sometimes it's nice to do. That was actually, and I have to shout out to our friends over at Visit Reading who helps facilitate Miles and do a lot of this type of stuff. And you know, they're always helpful for us and a big partner of ours. So yeah, that was fun. I actually got a ton of messages about that. So it seems like a lot of people responded positively to it. So fun story.
Super cool story.
Yeah. So that was where I wanted to start. Thanks to National Geographic. Now should we, and we don't have a guest this week because there was so much that happened since, you know, the last time we were out here. So I just want to go through all this hot news of the week. We'll be back next week with some fun guests we have lined up, but let's just get into the notes of the week.
Let's do it. Very first note of the week, we'll call it, it's kind of technically a sad story for this guy, how a tech billionaire lost $128 million buying a Lake Tahoe vacation home.
Yeah, this has been our most popular article of the month, actually, on activenorcal.com. And I can't pronounce this guy's name.
I was hoping you were going to do it, so I didn't have to.
Chamath Palahapitia.
I actually follow him on Twitter because he's one of the
Stonk guys.
I fell into that as I'm wearing a stock shirt.
Yeah, he's a venture capitalist, billionaire, like I said, owner of the Golden State Warriors. And it was just, well, for one, Lake Tahoe was rated like one of the top real estate markets in the country. It's all these people fleeing from the Bay Area, much like Sacramento, as you and I are sort of experiencing right now. And so he purchased a Truckee home, a vacation home, as all these tech billionaires do. I mean, Zuckerberg purchased an entire neighborhood, but he purchased a home and he paid, what did he pay? 2,739 Bitcoin, and the house was worth 1.6 million. Nice little Tahoe vacation home, if I do say so myself. Through Bitcoin inflation, that house, that person now has 129 million instead of the 1.6 million.
So what I thought of right away was this guy can technically make an argument that the property is worth that much. I mean, if you have if you have a professional come out and evaluate the estimated property, you're like, yeah, well, I actually paid this much for it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder.
I don't think the guy's hard up for money, so it's not that big of a deal. He just wish he would have maybe not used Bitcoin to purchase this home. If had he just used cash, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
So Bitcoin must have been 2014. It must have been worth $5,000 a pop back then. Now it's worth close to 60.
It was up to 61. I think it's down to 55,000.
This article's outdated then, so now it's closer to whatever 140 million. So this we're leading off with this because it really people really responded to this article how he lost all that money, but I guess that's what being a billionaire in the tech world is like these days.
Bitcoin is such a finicky beast, you think that the bubble's over and then it skyrockets. I mean, there was a point in time where Bitcoin weren't worth $1, right? They were worth less than $1, and now we're talking about, I mean, today's a bad day. I just checked, they're worth $55,400 per Bitcoin. It's insane.
But that's still a lot. Yeah.
If you got those diamond hands, I mean.
I wonder what the house is actually worth now, because the market has almost probably doubled since he bought it back in 2014. So, I mean, we say he lost all that money, but in reality, he actually is probably made money on that investment,
So I didn't see a home. I saw that it was, isn't it just a property? I mean, I have not seen a picture of a home. I mean, it makes sense to build a home there.
They don't have it is a big property, but there was a home on it.
Okay.
I'm sure he added a bunch to it, being the billionaire that he is.
And the fact that they don't mention the home, it was probably shitty, and they just were like, it doesn't matter. The property is worth this much.
Right. No, I think it was a nice home, 1.4 acre property right on, the North Lake of Tahoe. This is also a story of how Tahoe has changed, right? Tahoe was not necessarily a rich person's place 10 years ago.
I don't know. 10 years ago, I think it was. I think maybe 20 years ago, it wasn't.
I mean, I didn't see it that way. Maybe I had Tahoe passes back then, and I had friends that lived there, and I spent a lot of time in Tahoe. It didn't seem that way. I certainly didn't read about it as much as you read about it today. But, I think the Silicon Valley has changed so much that, these people want to get out of it now. And by the way, a lot of these billionaires just buy these properties in Incline Village, which is in Nevada, so they don't have to pay taxes, and they can hide away their money that way from the IRS. But
I was like, okay, well, when do I think that the whole rich, the people of wealth came to Tahoe to like seek refuge? And the first person that came to mind was Bill Gates. So I just Googled when he bought his home in Tahoe. It was 1988. So way before.
He might have sold that too.
I think he did. I think it actually says he sold it for like he bought it for $2 million, sold it for $127 million. So he had a $125 million profit.
Yeah. But Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, all these guys have massive, massive places in Tahoe, right on the lake. And like I said, Mark Zuckerberg, he bought like two different, they're cabins, but they were wedding venues, and he paid like $50 million each. He paid like $100 million for his entire block in I think it's near Tahoe City probably, but so that's another way that Tahoe's changed. People can't get married there as easily. If they are, it's a lot more expensive. I mean, it's just and it begs the question, what will Tahoe look in another 10 years?
Well, I'm glad that you said look, because to me, Tahoe looks the same. Tahoe is still, right. They got the wood on the outside of every building.
Right.
It's just a very woody place. It doesn't feel like a town. It's not San Francisco. It's not Los Angeles. It's not, the Silicon Valley. It's super its own entity. There's not an area that feels the same, but I mean, knowing how much more it's kind of worth now than it was, it really has not changed looks very dramatically to me.
It hasn't gentrified, although there are projects out there that are looking to seriously gentrify it, and they will significantly increase traffic issues in Tahoe, something that it already has, and it's been building for the last 20 years. It doesn't have the roads to take in all these tourists, and places like Squaw are really developing big, massive places for these Bay Area families to come, and it creates huge issues. So I do think it will change significantly in the next 10 years, and there's all these conservation groups that are trying to stop it, and money talks. I don't know if they'll be able to.
That's the one caveat to what I just said is the ski resorts. They are improving dramatically, quickly.
They're owned by massive companies that are just looking at their profit sheets, and you can't blame them in that. Vail. I call it the Vailification of Tahoe. And, North Star looks nothing like it looked, 10 years ago. A lot of these places are in that sense, those places are gentrified already. I mean, North Star, you go to that village, that is gentrification.
That's what I'm saying. They're taking, they're making those little mountains kind of non-existent anymore. They're really, the big guys are taking over. The Squaws, the Sierras, the North Stars are dominating.
Well, Sierra has stayed locally owned, and that's kind of one of the only ones. There's a lot of small mom and pop shops that do well. They just don't have the terrain that Squaw does. They don't have the terrain that Heavenly is huge, and that's Vail Resorts.
I will say Sugar Bowl. I've already seen them advertised, pop up on YouTube.
They're great.
So they are absolutely getting out there trying to.
Yeah, I don't know who owns Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl, we're in Sacramento. Which isn't that far from Tahoe, but they are them, and I actually saw Mount Shasta, several Mount Shasta commercials as well. So shout out to them as well.
Yeah, they're actually doing pretty well in advertising. But yeah, that's it. It's a different world out there in Tahoe.
Don't pay for anything in Bitcoin at this point.
Right.
Just hold diamond hands.
Just old. All right, what's next?
All right, next story. A wolf made an astounding trek from Oregon to Yosemite. Now, I didn't read this. I want a caveat. I did not read this article before. So let me just ask you this. Is this the same wolf we talked about in previous podcasts?
No, it's new.
It's a different one.
Yeah.
Got it.
There's been a lot of wolf movement in the last couple months, actually. There's a new wolf couple that is in Siskiyou County that you know, these wolf biologists believe could form a pack.
The fact that we're doing this and following couples, it feels like it's like The Bachelor of
I know.
Of wolf.
I know. Well, it's a weird place for wolves to meet, and this story in particular is really points to how phenomenal wolf dispersion is. So this gray wolf, OR 93, left the White River Pack in Oregon, now near Mount Hood. Traveled all the way down to Yosemite. I don't even know how many miles that is. What is that, 300, 400 miles, something like that, maybe more. And just over a couple months. And, he basically went through the Sierras, passed through Alpine County, passed through, highways 4 and 108 on like the Trans-Sierra state highways, and then into Mono County, not Yosemite in particular, but right outside of it, hundreds of miles from where he originated. And it's fascinating because, he's basically wandering around looking for a mate, right? He's looking for food and a mate, and that's it. And what scientists are saying is they think, okay, he's going to be like, all right, there's nothing down here, and come back up. But it is probably a signal of what we'll see in the past or in the future. I'm sorry, of these wolves possibly meeting up all the way that far south. It's the furthest south in California a wolf has ever been tracked. So I guess I should also start, since you didn't read. I'll start with sort of how wolves got back into California, right? They haven't been in California in 100 years. They were killed off. They were chased off for a lot of different reasons, these gray wolves. And in the 90s, wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in Idaho. And they were purposely reintroduced to, for a lot of different reasons. And I think there are... In a national park setting like that, there are a lot of benefits to having wolves, mostly tame down the other species. And from Idaho, they've just wandered. And now there's a ton of them in Oregon, right next to Idaho, and now they're moving all the way down to California. And basically, and this is, makes a lot of people mad, basically, these wolves are going to disperse across the entire West Coast just because they're a reintroduction to Idaho.
It's crazy to me that the majority of the migration of these wolves is just north to south, that there's really no eastern. We don't hear about these wolves going into Nevada or what have you. You did just mention Idaho, and that's a westward movement, if you will. But yeah. Because I'm a professional, I could do this on the fly. I pulled up the article. Okay, this wolf,
real professional over
this
here.
wolf was tagged near Mount Hood. Okay, so being the professional I am, I just Googled how long it takes to get from Mount Hood to Yosemite. By car, just roads, literally probably the quickest way, 689 miles by car. It's a 12-hour drive.
Yeah.
So just imagine what a wolf has to do. And I think that's the most impressive part of the story. And that's the most impressive part of the wolf stories that we've talked about, is the amount of distance that they are able to cover on foot in a short period of time. I mean, they cover distance.
Yeah, and it's so weird. It's all these wolves are somehow kind of related, right? I mean, they're probably from different packs here and there, but they all come from the reintroduction from Idaho. And so imagine this wolf travels 500, 600 miles, whatever, and meets someone that was like from the same spot. It's like you traveling to London and meeting someone from Redding, California, and getting married to whatever, where you grew up. And it's weird in that sense. Their dispersal, it's fascinating to be honest. And so if you're not aware, there's one wolf pack in California, one known wolf pack in California. That's the Lassen pack. And they've been mating like crazy over the last couple of years. They're now up to like 10 wolves in the pack. And some of them, as they grow older, they disperse on their own. So that's, I mean, literally just this one pack it has quadrupled the number of wolves in the state. And so we have all these different stories of wolves coming in, trying to settle, not necessarily happening. You know, the Shasta pack is another one that was in Siskiyou County that disappeared. People think they were murdered by local ranchers, which is a whole different part of this story where ranchers do not want wolves in the state. Rightfully so. They have a product, they have... And not only that, but the safety of maybe their house pets and their kids or whatever. So these wolves are highly controversial. And that's why people think the Shasta pack was murdered, because, they parked next to a cattle rancher's spot and just kept taking their stuff.
I'm sure there's some truth to that.
Totally. And if you kill a wolf, you can go to jail.
Right.
So...
that's why we always talk about them, because
right.
the protection of these, we'd really like to see this pack grow. We want to see more of them because of humans' hands, these wolves are now basically endangered in this area.
Yeah. And this, I think more than anything, this is the official reintroduction of wolves into California. We had a wolf come all the way down to near the Tahoe area and go back to Oregon. We have this guy coming all the way down to Yosemite and coming back. Eventually, these wolves are going to meet up with each other, and they're going to start a pack, and then they're going to disperse from that pack. And I mean, wolves are back in California, whether you like it or not. We don't know how long it will take for them to actually,
So you're officially saying wolves are back.
Wolves are back. Yes. Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, wolves are cool, and wolves can do some good things for different, environments. I completely 1,000% understand a rancher's problem. We need to find some middle ground in legislation and say, okay, and I don't know the full story coming from the ranchers, but if a wolf kills your cattle, you get this much money from the government or something like that. And maybe that doesn't fully help their case. Maybe they want more than that, and that's fine. But they're not going anywhere. And it's just so weird to me though that these wolves come all the way. They try and they find each other. Right? Isn't that weird?
Hormones.
Yeah, I guess they can smell each other. I guess they can sense each other in the wild.
Howl.
Maybe there's like some scat that they find. They're like, oh, this is another wolf. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating to learn about because it is it's not a new animal to California. I mean, there were tens of thousands back before the gold rush, but they're new to us, But
wolves are back.
Wolves are back. Okay, that does it on wolves. Let's move on. What's our next topic?
Another animal topic. This one a fun one. Fisherman breaks 46-year-old California crappie record on Clear Lake.
Yeah, this is. It's not every day a fishing record is broken. In fact, there's a lot of people that get close to fishing records in California, but it's really hard to break these suckers. So crappies are not big. And I don't know much about crappies other than what David Burris did on Clear Lake. He caught a 4-pound, 5-ounce black crappie on Clear Lake.
I think they're pretty much usually known as pretty crappy fish, right?
Good one. I'm sure no one's had that joke before.
I'm back.
David Burris, he is actually the owner of Clear Lake Outdoors Bait and Tackle Shop there in Clear Lake, California. Yeah, he was like trying to catch bass. I mean, Clear Lake's one of the best bass fishing lakes in the country. And he thought he had like this largemouth bass, and he goes to pull it up, and it is this just massive crappie. And I don't know how you catch crappie. I don't know if you can eat it. I don't know I don't know why you'd want to catch a crappie, but you certainly can.
Yeah, I mean, he in the article, it mentions that he thought it was two different fish. It was too big to be a crappie. So, like, instantaneously, he's like, there's no way this is a crappie. Pulls it up. It's a record fish. And he did, like, somebody who owns Clear Lake Outdoors would do, made sure to keep that fish intact and go make sure it gets weighed and gets follow the process to make sure that if you do indeed beat the record, you get acknowledged and you do it in the right way. So shout out to this guy. And I actually saw this on another really big, did you ever see the show Meat Eater? Have we talked about this?
That's the guy who goes out
Hunting
and catches
and fishing?
fish and then cooks it. Yeah.
He featured this guy. He
cool.
He gave this guy a shout out on, I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram, but he was like, acknowledging it, and I thought that was really cool.
He acknowledged the crappie catch or a different.
This crappie catch. This guy, yeah, he had a different. So the picture.
So does that mean you can eat crappie?
Probably. I don't see why not. It's a freshwater fish, but the picture that he shared was different than the picture that is here.
Yeah, I've seen multiple pictures.
The picture
online.
was actually in
the boat.
No, where they weighed the fish. And so it was when it was officially the record was the picture that he shared. And you had already put out this article on Active NorCal, and so we beat him to it. But I thought that was pretty cool that a pretty nationally reputable outdoor kind of establishment also acknowledged it.
It's a 46-year-old state record.
It's insane. And it's only a 4.5 pound fish. We caught trout like 10 times that size. And so it's not a big fish compared to other fish, but compared to other crappies, it's literally, I mean, it's probably about the same size as the, what was that really shitty fish that I caught?
I forget the name of it. Yeah.
Mine was bigger.
Yeah, so it's a small fish, but I mean, this really does, because anytime there's a fish, like, I'm sure there's fish that are caught that are bigger than state records and people just don't weigh them or whatever. But yeah, no, this is, you look at the salmon record is, it's in the 70s, it's like 50 years 80, old. Yeah. The trout record, I think, is pretty old as well. I think the trout record's around like 26, 27 pounds. So yeah, it's just really rare that these type of things happen.
Okay, next topic, kind of a gross one. Point Reyes wetlands has the highest E. coli levels in California.
Yes, here is another, some more controversy in Point Reyes. Everyone sort of knows at this point that the cattle ranchers are sort of causing some big problems in this beautiful national park. And we've talked about it a lot. They're starting to kill Tule elk because the Tule elk were competing with the cattle for food, for grass in the area. So they're saying, okay, you can only keep a certain amount of Tule elk in the area, and that means they're killing them and keeping the herd to a certain amount, which is sad. Now it's been determined that the highest reported E. coli levels in a wild form of water in California comes from the streams and the wetlands of Point Reyes. All of these drain out into the ocean, basically, where there's Kehoe Beach, there's Drake's Beach, there's Abbott's Lagoon, and Tamales Bay. Tamales Bay obviously being big for its oysters and right? Don't they do other food there?
There's tons of seafood coming out of
seafood coming out of Tamales Bay, which is kind of gross now that you think
oysters are probably the most notable, but there's a lot of seafood, yeah.
So, and basically, the reason why there's huge E. coli levels is because there's something like 10,000 pounds of, 130 million pounds of poop and urine annually coming from these cows, thousands of cows. So this is just another problem that Point Reyes is having with these cattle ranchers, and there is a determined group of conservationists and environmentalists who are out there trying to bring this information to the forefront because they want those cattle ranchers out of there, even though they just signed a new lease of 5 to 20 years in Point Reyes.
I have some differentiating opinions on this in several different ways.
Let's hear it.
First of all, some of my favorite cheese in the entire world is made in that area of the world. Some of my favorite cheeses and all of, I mean, Cowgirl Creamery is my favorite kind of cheesery in the world, I'd say. And they have a lot of their dairy products coming from that area. Northern California specifically, they are Northern California cheese. So I very much respect where they come from, and I know that company has an opinion about environmentally friendly and all of that. Most dairies do, especially the smaller ones that aren't like corporate run.
And these farms have been there since the 1860s.
It's in what was the president that signed that into
JFK
that said, leaving the cattle ranchers in the terms, like they are in that bill that gives them
makes it a national park,
but it gives them the right to stay there.
Exactly. Yep.
So not only do I love Northern California cheese, I also love Northern California outdoors. So I don't want to see contamination, pollution. I told you something a couple days ago, and so I have a very unique perspective on this, in that in the last 48 hours, I have fallen completely for a YouTube page involving a guy who's like a 22-year-old dairy farmer from Pennsylvania. I have watched at least 6 hours of his content in the last 48 hours, and all it is a day in the life of this 22-year-old 10th generation dairy farmer just doing its job. But the majority of his job is moving poop. All of these, that's the majority of the problem, is containing the waste coming from these cows in an adequate way. And what they do, and I'm learning a lot by watching this, most of the like buildings that they keep these cattle in, underneath them are big poop storage facilities, if you will, kind of like sewages. But what they do, and I'm learning, I mean, I kind of knew a lot of this from culinary school and stuff, but they keep that, and what they generally do is they pump a lot of that sewage into these truck distributors that they have, take them to their actual land that grows grass or alfalfa or what have you, and they spread that manure as fertilizer. It's great for it's returning to the environment what was there. But what's happening here is that manure is seeping into the really, really deep parts of the ground, and that water is leaking into the ocean.
It pops back out into creeks and different.
So really the only issue is the proximity to the ocean. That's really what it is. If those farms were further away from the ocean, then that contaminated water would not reach to the oceans, if you will.
Correct. And it's a little bit more than that. Point Reyes is a huge area for marine mammals. You got the seals and everything that live right there. You have the elk. You have a ton of coyotes. You have just a ton of wildlife who use that water as a resource. And I think that's like the bit. Not only that, there's people swimming on all these beaches, And I think one of the most difficult things that the national park has to deal with immediately is there's no warning signs. Like there's no signs that's like, oh, there's E. coli here. Right. You remember when the American River still has a huge E. coli issue, but there's signs at the beach that say, hey, this is poopy water.
Right. I totally acknowledge they need signage there. Yeah. But so the proximity of those to the ocean. So if, let's say those farms were 200 miles eastern, more inland. Mm-hmm. What it does is the land is, no matter where a dairy farm is, there is going to be this kind of contaminant, but the land is filtering out the water. When it seeps into the land, that land is literally it's pulling out all of those nutrients, because those E. coli nutrients that are in that poop water is really good for the environment. It's adding carbon back into the soil, so it's good. And over time, that water is eventually going to end up in the ocean anyways, but it has so much time manipulating through dirt and other things that filter that water out that it's exactly. Yeah. So it's all about the proximity to the ocean. And so this is a problem that I have super like opposite opinions on. Like I really care for the dairy farms, and I appreciate that they've been doing this for hundreds of years. I think one of them said that they've been open since like the 1860s or something like that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, especially because this guy whose YouTube I'm following is a 10th generation farm. So they have adapted over the years, so you can see that family environment and the love that they have. But, you know, we also have to worry about the marine mammals. We also have to worry about the local people aren't going to go vacation and swim in that area if they know that it is known as being a pretty poopy water, you know, that's
right.
And so I have totally opposite differentiating opinions about it. I think something should be done, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's akin to the wolves, right? It's people's livelihood. It's the economy versus environmental issues and conservation. And some people are on the far ends of both sides. I tend to find us somewhere in the middle for all these because God knows we need dairy farmers. I know that, and people work hard and make a living off of it. At the meantime, I want that wildlife to, especially in a national park like that one that's so beautiful, like Point Reyes. It's just this weird problem to have, and I don't know if there's another national park like this. I assume since Kennedy signed it, that there's other situations like this around the country where there's sort of local businesses, you know, intertwined with national parks. Certainly there's none other like that in Northern California. But it's just this weird problem that exists in Point Reyes. And first, it was a Tule elk problem. It still is a problem where they're killing these animals who used to have massive herds in the state, and now they're, you know, barely existent, and now there's a big poop problem.
So I don't want to beat a dead horse too much on this, but I did want to mention the wolf thing. In that, I think a while ago when I first saw the wolf population herding the dairy cows, and the farmers of the owners of those dairy cows getting paid by the government. I don't know if I agree with that as much anymore. I feel like as a dairy farmer, it's your responsibility to protect those cows. And so like, I feel like you need to at least show that you made a substantial effort to keep those wolves out of your property. If they just snuck on the property, that's what they naturally do.
Yeah. I think it's really hard to keep.
But like when I'm watching this guy's YouTube, they all of the cows are numbered, and so they don't have names for them, but they all have different personalities. And these farmers that have these smaller farms that produce the best quality, whether it be meat or dairy, they know their cows and they protect their cows. And so, I don't know. And I'm sure these farms are not like, oh, poor me. But I mean, I do feel like it's the farmers. It's at least a piece the farmer's responsibility.
So here's a devil's advocate for you. So let's say a farmer for centuries, you know, he's a 10th generational farmer. And what have they done with predators? They've shot them, right? They've shot them for years. But now the government's saying you can't do that. Instead, you have to spend thousands of dollars on like an electric fence, a huge electric fence to keep these out. And they're like, screw you. Like, why do we have to pay for all that? That makes sense to me. That's government overreach where they're saying, oh, you have to go spend your money even though you pay taxes, and we're telling you can't now do something. You know what I mean?
Well, but then also, you're also contaminating the waterways. I mean,
true.
You're doing, we're giving you this, and dairy farms pollute. It's not a very eco-friendly way of producing food, okay? But nonetheless, I mean, it's a give and take, and I see both sides, but...
So it's, and I'm just spitballing here, is a way to fix this problem for the government to, purchase land for these dairy farmers to move to? I mean, I assume that's a really good place to raise cattle because they started doing it in the 1800s, And by the way, those plush fields are probably perfect to feed them.
Right, being so close to like having the marine layer
totally.
Helps the grass grow, which helps feed the animals. Right.
So I don't know enough about the specific laws around it and around this lease that they have with this weird lease that they have with the National Park Service, but there has to be some middle ground we can find. Maybe the federal government pays to make sure this poop stays out of the water. I don't know. And I don't know how you do that, to be honest. But something's got to give, because I follow a lot of these conservationists online, and they are pissed off about all this stuff.
Well, you can see it's clearly not an easy problem to solve, because both entities have significant arguments to be made.
Yeah. And so yeah, I don't know where we go from here, but this problem's not going to get any better, especially now that we have, back in the early 1900s, they didn't have tests for E. coli, now that we're just like, oh yeah, they're really messing things up here with all this poop, it's a problem. But
real poop-filled podcast, this one.
Well, we always seem to talk about Point Reyes because there is always some controversial stuff, but okay, let's move on. What's our next story?
Next story. This is a good one. Yosemite 2021 Firefall. One of the best ever seen. Gorgeous. Looks like a volcano spewing lava from top of an amazing mountain.
Yeah. So I guess we need to talk about the Firefall because we haven't been able to this year. There's a couple things here. One, yes, for a couple days it was pretty good because some snow and water came down for like a week, and then it wasn't like 2019. This this headline, one of the best we've ever seen, is probably someone that didn't see it in 2019, which was probably the best one ever photographed, at least in recent the recent decade probably. But it turned out pretty good in late February there, and it's amazing. The Firefall, and for those who don't know, Horsetail Falls for about 2 weeks around the end of February. The sun hits it as such that it looks like it's like lava flowing over a massive cliff.
Orange glowing water that looks like anything but water. It's fantastic. What a beautiful, I just love that waterfall. That's one we haven't done a video at, but I have been to.
Well, so there are, and most major photographers here in Northern California were there. And a lot of them share, the crowds were massive. And so much so that that's really the only reason people are visiting the park in February. Maybe it's not the only reason, but it's the main reason. And if you go to Yosemite in February, you're probably going to go see the Firefall. But it was great. It turned out great. I love looking at the photos online, but I don't necessarily want to go deal with the crowd and see it in person. It's gotten so bad that they have these certain reservation systems that make it really hard because it would be worse otherwise. So. But it was a great event. Once again, always is. As long as we get the right weather, the Firefall shows out.
Like I said, time and time again, Yosemite National Park, one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
Yeah, I have some plans to go there this summer. Obviously, won't see the Firefall, but yeah, I just don't go down that way enough. I'm always going north, but I need to spend some more time in Yosemite. It's obviously a huge part of the content that we do. So, but yeah.
A waterfall not mentioned in the National Geographic article.
It's funny. It's so funny that you said that, because the guy said, well, would you characterize like the Shasta Cascade as sort of the Mecca for waterfalls? A term I have used, by the way. I have written about that area, and I've said that. And I said, yeah, that in Yosemite. Like, Yosemite has 10 phenomenal waterfalls. But it is different because it is one park, whereas up north, it's a couple different, it's spread out more. But I'm like, yeah, that in Yosemite. And I don't think that guy's like, I'm not going to use that quote. Like, it kind of undersells, but I don't think you can oversell how phenomenal both the rock formations and the wilderness and the waterfalls are in Yosemite. All right, what's next?
Next story. Sierra Snow Survey reveals California on the verge of another critical dry year.
Wah, wah.
Which is kind of crazy because, I guess I'm not paying as much of attention as I should, but it feels like the snow it came this year.
I'll tell you what's happening. And this is just for someone who pays way too close attention to weather and to snowpack year in and year out here in Northern California. Our winters are shrinking. And yeah, we got a little bit of something at the end of November and December, but not a whole lot. And then you get into January, February, and we had like some great storms, right? February specifically is always great. And then it just sort of stops now. And I remember, what was it, 2010? Was it 2000? Maybe, I forget what year it was. 04. 04 was... I mean, it snowed from December to April nonstop. And it was a phenomenal snowboarding year for me. But it's historically, and you can look at this article online, historically, our reservoirs are historically low, and there's nothing to feed into them right now. And so, yeah, we all think about, the huge 5-foot storms coming in February, but when they end at the end of February and you go into March and April where you're still supposed to get precipitation, but it's not happening, it creates a huge problem. So call it whatever you will, call it climate change, call it the flows of California and California's weather, or just the West Coast in general. But we do have a problem on our hands.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to call this climate change.
Okay, yeah.
Just going out on a limb.
Yeah,
Hot take.
Yeah, I mean, our climate is changing. And specifically, we've seen it with the fires. And I think this is really bad for this summer. In 2019, we had a great water year. And that sort of fixed everything for 2020, not for 2019 and for 2020. It sort of lessened our chances for snow or for fire. But now, unless something big happens in the next 6 weeks, it could be bad again.
We've had this conversation before. I'm sure we'll have it again.
Yeah.
The amount of water that comes to Northern California is incredibly crucial to so many different things, so many different industries. Not that people are traveling nearly as much as they used to, but just the vacation, the tourism industry is going to die down. And I will say that when winter really first started, I had great hope. I feel like we got a lot of waterfall really quickly. I have a lot of meetings with people, Zoom meetings that are with people outside of the state, and almost every time it rains, I always acknowledge that it's raining outside, but I'm happy because we need all the rain that we can get, and I thought that we had an adequate amount. So when I saw this, seeing that we're on the verge of another critically dry year, I was a bit disappointed because, as I'm sure we'll talk about in 4 months, that means wildfires.
Yep. And so here, I'm pulling this up because this article is a little older. I'm pulling up our reservoir levels right now, okay? Shasta Lake, it's currently at 50% capacity. Historically, it's at 66%. So it's at 66% of what it would typically be at this time of year. So it's 2/3 as much as, which it's low. Trinity, 68% historical average, 52% currently full. Oroville, currently 39% full, and at 53% of historical average. It goes on and on. Folsom is super low. Folsom, you can see there's an old bridge that the water's so low that you can see it right now. It was an old bridge that got filled up when they built the dam. Go on and on and on. All these are around 50 to 60% historical average. Which those numbers will continue to fall unless we get water. So it's bad. And like you said, it's tourism, it's recreation, it's farming, it's all these things, and the most important, fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, hopefully, let's rain dance, let's do whatever, because...
I was just going to say, there's literally nothing that we can do
there is
other than just talk about it and complain about it. But the rain dance, great idea. The one thing, if we want to take something positive away from this, is the years that tend to be dry, Napa, puts out some of the best wines in the world. So if you want to take something red wines, white wines like rainy years, red wine likes dry years. So
well, I don't want to be a buzzkill, but
burn to the ground.
It might burn to the ground before.
We're probably going to have some pretty outstanding wine from the 2021 vintage.
Okay, let's finish on a high note here.
Last story, we're going to talk about skiers that took a death-defying descent from Yosemite's Half Dome down. I will say, I read the article, started to watch video, couldn't watch it very long because it's like
scary.
Anxiety. It's just anxiety-ridden. Like, I would never do this. Does not look fun to me. You spent an entire day climbing one of the hardest domes in all of Northern California just to ski down it, and if you literally lose your edge, you're dead. It does not look like something that I would enjoy doing. I couldn't even watch a video.
Yeah, I think they sort of crept down because
they're going super slow, but still, like
this is a rock face that people who hike it fall off of. With the cables in, they put protective cables to hike up to the top of Half Dome, and people still will fall off and die, and these guys skied down it. And one guy even said he caught, there's, the place where they install the cables, and he caught one on his skis and started to fall.
You could see it in the video. They're just kind of straight up. Yeah, it's just good. I mean, I'm sure it's a viral video. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I watched first one.
Well, it's a big story. It's the first time it's happened.
It's crazy. It does. You do it to be known as the guy to do it, but you don't do it because it's like, oh my God, that'd be so fun. It's just you do it because you want to be famous for doing it.
Yeah, you want to push the limits.
The guy did not have fun on his ski.
No, you're right.
It looks like he's just...
he had fun on the tour, on the media tour.
If his buddy didn't hit record on that video, he would have been so
bummed,
furious about it that he's like, I did all of that for nothing, is what he would have taken away had he not got that on video.
Yeah, so their names are Jason Torlano and Zach Milligan, and it's just a crazy story that both these guys are pretty experienced skiers, and Milligan had only planned to go film Torlano. Yes, but he but he was sitting on the rock face. He said, "Screw it, I'm going." And so yeah, he did. He slipped out. And if you slip out, you're done. I mean, it's so that, whatever that rock is on Half Dome, it's so slick.
It's like granite, probably, right?
Yeah. Granite rock face. And he used his ice axe to stop him from slipping off the cliff. So it is an unbelievable accomplishment, and you got to give it to them for doing it. But I guess my fear is that people try to copycat it,
Totally. No, yeah, you got to be safe. I always like the videos of people skiing where they shouldn't. This isn't one that I'm like, it's impressive, don't get me wrong, but I like seeing, people skiing in Boston when it snows. And
right.
And I just saw this morning, this is not NorCal related, but there's the venue in Colorado called, I think it's Red Rock. I think it's in Colorado. It's like an outdoor amphitheater where people concerts. There were tracks of people snowboarding down because it's an amphitheater.
It's a huge storm in Colorado right now.
So they went to this huge amphitheater, and those steps made a natural hill. So people are skiing and snowboarding down that hill.
Well, there's this huge storm in Colorado, huge. And how did that skip us? Where did that come from? I didn't look, but it's what the heck? We could use that.
Rain dance.
Yeah. So, and this descent that these guys did is actually kind of rare just because you need the perfect snowfall on it.
Perfect conditions, perfect time of day. You got to start right.
It doesn't get a ton of snow even in winter, and you have to go up when it's not storming, but you also need to do it right after a storm. So
well, you can see in this video right on the other side of kind of the side that they're on, it's just straight bare rock. It's not like there's 10 feet of snow. There's snow.
2 years ago, we did an article about a woman that slipped off that and died. She wanted to get a picture outside of the cables, and she just slipped and fell. And you can see it in the picture. It's just, there's no stopping, and it's hundreds of feet, if not thousands. So anyway, shout out to these guys. Just stay safe whenever you're doing stuff like that.
It's only a 50-second video. I made it 38 seconds. I'm just looking. I couldn't watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's only a 50-second video. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
12
some of
seconds,
it's
buddy.
are okay, but it's just like, ugh. Yeah,
lie.
that's scary. Yeah.
And that does it for the news of the week.
All right. So I wanted to finish off today. We don't have an interview, so we did, a bunch of stories, and I wanted to talk, I don't even know what we're supposed to say now. We're rounding the corner on this COVID stuff, and
The light at the end of the tunnel is getting bigger. You said it perfect earlier.
it seems to be getting pretty darn big now.
Both of our parents have had the vaccine. That's fantastic. The people are getting the vaccine. Things are starting to open. I even see there's some sporting events, some sporting venues that are, what is it in Texas?
Kids sports are back in California.
And then I think in Texas, they're going to allow full capacity at the opening day for one of the baseball teams or whatever I heard.
Well,
maybe, not necessarily the best
that's
idea,
Texas, yeah.
but things are starting to become normalized again.
And boy, are we ready. We're ready. Yeah. This year sucked, obviously, but I did want to take a second to talk about some people who are doing good. First and foremost, before we get into these people that we both love, you can't diminish what the frontline workers have done.
Totally.
And they are the true heroes here, the men and women, the doctors, the nurses, the administrators, everyone who's working in hospitals, who saw the front line of this COVID pandemic and put their lives on the line, basically, to deal with it. Thank you for all you do. Actually, last week the Sundial Bridge turned blue. They were thanking everyone. So before we get into this, I just want the true heroes are the people who have risked their lives this entire year to try to save lives and and did save lives. But I want to talk about two of our favorite people, the heroes that we need here in Northern California. Two of the most famous people to come out of Northern California. First and foremost, let's talk about Guy Fieri.
You got it. Fieri.
Guy Fieri. I say
you just butchered it. There's a guy named Eddie, and he has a fee. Fieri.
Guy Fieri.
That's how he.
So it's like a D.
That's how he describes how do you say his name. Fieri.
Bob's been to Flavortown too many times. So Guy, and we've gone over this a million times. He is the foremost philanthropist here in Northern California. When the fires happened during the car fire, he came out and he does all these feeds. He did. I saw just as I was looking up this for this podcast, he did like a breakfast for the Sonoma County Sheriffs the other day. Like, the guy is amazing. He's worldwide famous, but he sticks to his Northern California roots, where he's from. He's put a lot of money into the local food scene because we all know that, food has been especially interrupted here in COVID, closing down restaurants and all that. So this is a great story where he actually grew up working at the Ferndale Meat Company. And as it was this building, built in 1903, and this meat company has worked out of there forever. And instead of this meat company going under, he bought the building and just gave them free rent. And
he's not changing anything.
And I don't know how much this cost. It cost him $300,000. And it's this guy is just so awesome. I just wanted to mention him as, he's Northern California's probably most famous resident because he still does live here, even though he travels the world and visits Flavortown every once in a while. But he has done so many philanthropic, great things, just specifically locally here in Northern California, that you just have to mention him.
This is a good story. This is not the story I thought it was going to be, because there's a lot of Guy Fieri stories with regards to COVID.
Yeah.
This is a great one. This is just one that he saw a specific, entity, this meat company, that it was meant something to him, and he really wanted to step in and make sure nothing happened. But he actually did that on a much bigger scale with his introduction of the Flavortown kitchens. Are you familiar with Guy Fieri's Flavortown kitchen?
Yeah, so I know they have one in Roseville here. Is he using that as a donation tool?
So I'm glad that you don't know. And I could be wrong about this, but from what I understand about this is COVID-19 shut down a lot of restaurants, right? And a lot of these restaurants kind of saw this coming and were like, literally, we're going to shut down if something doesn't happen. And what Guy had the idea of is if I just create a streamlined, simplified menu that pretty much every restaurant in the world could make very easily with recipes that I've already created, tested, are ready to go, with products that are very easy to get, everyday items that you can get in any kitchen, I'm going to take over these restaurants, and instead of them going out of business, we're going to rebrand them as Flavortown businesses, have this streamlined menu that he has created with recipes that he's tested over and over. They include bourbon brown sugar barbecue wings, or award-winning mac and cheese burger at all of the locations.
Right.
And so
we did that. We did an article on that.
And so that to me is the biggest thing that he has done, is because this isn't just in Northern California. He's done this nationwide. He did it in Northern California because that's his home. He grew up in Santa Rosa. He brought the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives production team from Los Angeles to Santa Rosa. They are headquartered in Santa Rosa because he wanted to contribute to the local economy and he didn't want to move. And I totally agree with him. And he's Guy Fieri, so he can do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he
So
wants.
he's also promoting the Barstool Fund, which is a fund that was created by the Barstool sports guys, and it's giving money to businesses that are going out of business. And it's fantastic. They've, I think they've gotten 31 million plus, and just are giving all of that money directly to these restaurants that would have shut down. So Guy Fieri is a national icon, but more specifically, he is Northern California's king. He is Mr. Flavortown. He is somebody that you can make fun of Guy Fieri all you want. There's nobody that dislikes Guy Fieri. And if you are, screw you.
He has 100%, approval rating.
Like if he went and we say this I say this jokingly, but who knows what could happen nowadays. If Guy Fieri went against The Rock and the president, who knows? If they went together, nobody would beat him. If it was like Fieri Rock, that would be the 1-2 punch that America needs.
But he also, he just seems like a reasonable human being. And he's made a ton of money. He's got all these new shows all the time. And he gives back to NorCal. And, there's a bazillion different stories of how he helped local establishments during the COVID pandemic. And so he is a hero that we want, a hero that we need, someone who has supported communities during the devastating fires. He's always there for people. He was feeding people at Shasta College. You and I both went to Shasta College, during this. He helped them during the car fire. So he is close to our hearts, and maybe someday we can get him on the podcast or something. That's like a goal that we should look for.
I've listened to him on a podcast in the last 7 days.
Yeah.
And not only do we want him on the podcast, but he has mentioned in previous interviews that he wants his son Hunter to take over his job. But I think I could do a better job than Hunter. So
you're not there.
I'm not what?
You're not a Fieri.
Come at me, Hunter.
And yeah, you mentioned the Barstool Fund, and we did some articles about that because they did some local stuff in Chico, all over Northern California, San Francisco, but Chico specifically because they teamed with this next guy who ended up going out on his own to fund stuff, and that is basically your favorite person on the planet, Aaron Rodgers.
Go Pack, go.
So Aaron, for one, he got involved with the Barstool Fund, donated a bunch of money, and then he chose different businesses to fund during COVID pandemic. One of them being Burger Hut. We did an article on that, which he called his favorite restaurant in Chico. That's debatable, but everyone has their own opinion. I love the Burger Hut. It's a really good establishment. And now he teamed with the North Valley Community Foundation and donated $1 million and chose 20 different businesses to to give money to during the pandemic, people that were hurt during the pandemic.
Super cool. Yeah, he started out by matching Dave Portnoy's $500,000 initial deposit into the Barstool Fund. He matched that, so that was $1 million. And then he wanted that to go to a Chico business, which it did. But then it looks like he kind of started his own fund, which, I mean, you can't have enough. I mean, who cares if he wants to
He wasn't done giving.
He wasn't done giving. And so he partnered up
yeah.
with a local North Valley Community Foundation to do this. And I think it's great. I mean, there are a lot of restaurants that are struggling. I mean, just being in the industry, I see it. It's affecting my paycheck. I understand it. And so it's tough, but we're all, again, light at the end of the tunnel is getting bigger. We just need a little bit more to stay on. And so him going back and not only he's contributed his own $1 million of his hard-earned money. I mean, that's commendable. And a lot of people, he lives in Wisconsin. He doesn't have a home in Chico, but he grew up there and his roots are there. And so,
no one knows if he even talks to his family anymore.
Well,
that's Chico. That's
right.
It is. But he went to Butte College. I went to Butte College with him. I'll just say that.
And he went to Cal, another Northern California
he went to Cal.
School, you know.
When I lived in Chico and I went to school, he used to come into Mountain Mike's Pizza Place where I worked because his friends from high school worked there. And that was, right after he had gotten drafted and no one knew what he would become, the football legend that he is. But he also, after the campfire, he donated $1 million to the wildfire victims then. So these are the type of people that are using their worldwide fame to give back to Northern California. And I just wanted to recognize them. Again, there's a lot of people out there who do not have the names that Aaron Rodgers and Guy Fieri have, but that are doing great things. But, these guys are really putting this type of stuff on the map. The fires, and I'm sure they will be there for us in whatever future catastrophe, knock on wood, hopefully we don't have more, but these are just great stories, and I'm excited that we do have good representation out there in the world.
Aaron Rodgers, also one of the best franchise quarterbacks in NFL.
Let's
run it back next year, baby. Go Pack, go.
Bob's a huge Packers fan. Our family's originally from Wisconsin.
We are going to win the NFC Championship next year. We are not just going to make it. We are going to win it. We're going to go to the Super Bowl. And we're going to win it all.
What is the likelihood that Aaron Rodgers comes back to Northern California's football team, the 49ers?
0% chance.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I have mad respect for 49er fans. There's 0% chance.
It was his favorite team growing up, but he's probably still
Same
pissed.
with Tom Brady.
He's probably still pissed because they skipped on him. They were like, so is Tom Brady. You're right. They said they were going to draft him like number 1 overall, and they didn't. So he's probably. I mean, I think he probably keeps.
He was a little pissed off. He put some words out there. He's going to have a restructured, very highly paid contract, but he'll be a Packer for life.
Yeah, I want to talk some sports on this podcast because I know some of our listeners are also sports fans. We will do that someday, and maybe.
Warriors played Lakers last night.
Yeah, Lakers stomped them, didn't they? Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, they did.
And that's it. Thank you to Guy Fieri, Aaron Rodgers, and all of the frontline workers that do so much for us here in Northern California. We are forever indebted. And with that, let us end this reunion of sorts. Talking NorCal podcast.
It's good to be back after our little hibernation.
It's good to be back. I think we're just right on point. I mean, we've done it enough times.
Haven't lost a step.
Yeah.
Haven't lost a step.
And like I said, we're gonna be doing this once a week. Middle of the week, we might come up with a day, whether that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Our schedules are hectic throughout the week, which is why we took a sort of a sabbatical from this, but we're committing to doing it sort of in the middle of the week. We might set a day where we do it regularly, maybe whether that be Tuesday or Thursday or whatever. But either way, subscribe to us, please, because we're stoked to hop into your eardrums every day. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of those. We're going to be showing highlights of each episode on on our social media accounts. And thanks for listening, guys. And remember, stay active.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and Darren knows how to do to kick it down in Santa Cruz. Or NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the